Thank you for joining me today to talk to everyone about joy and the fact that we don't seem to be very good at prioritizing it. But we're not going to
Mhm.
get into the topic right away because we're waiting for people to join.
Mhm.
But we're not just speaking to one another because we've done that before.
Mhm.
Topic. Topic. So maybe we can start with introducing one another, and I can start so there's more people joining, and then I'll invite you to introduce yourself, and then we get into the thick of the topic.
Sounds great. Yeah. Thank you, Naomi, for inviting me to join you to co-facilitate this discussion. Joy is definitely something we want to lean into. So I'm excited about, this live here today. And it's my first Substack live. So even more excited.
Yay!
Yeah.
Exciting. I hope it's just the first, and many, many, many others will follow together on your own. The world is our oyster, or Substack is our oyster.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I
Bit of-
love it.
So I'll introduce myself. We're gonna buy a bit of time so more people join. Uh, my name is Noemi Apetri. I'm an ex-lawyer. I'm a lawyer as a training, and then because of a series of fortunate and unfortunate events, I wanted to leave the law and experiment something, being on my own and being consultant. Because of my previous experience coaching and mentoring, I started a consultancy that's called Me Time,
Mm-hmm.
and a mug, so to make it official. And I coach about taking back the power we have instead of giving all the powers to our employers, to our family, to the friends that we have that decide everything about us, and we just kind of go with the flow. And that's not how we should live life, and that's not joyful. So that's kind of a very unplanned bird's eye view of what I do and me. But my main obsession lately is joy, and not because of any other reason that it feels good, and because that's the only of the basic emotion that is absolutely amazing, and that actually gives us the energy, the power, the optimism, the creativity to actually withstand, the fear and the anger and all the other basic feelings. And it's just magic dust. And we're going to get deeper into it, but I would like you, Sarina, to please introduce yourself to my audience, and hopefully people start following you or subscribe to your publication. So please tell us a little bit about what you do here on Substack.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess, yeah. So my stubs, so I'm Sarina Tomel. I'm a leadership mindset coach, HR consultant, strategist, storyteller, so a writer. I feel like I've always been a writer at heart, but struggled with that early on. And that, again, comes into like not maybe being perfect or good enough and all of that, but nonetheless. So I'm also a recovering perfectionist, and I have a Substack called that. I teach and coach my clients how to step up, speak up, and stand up for their, careers, relationships, their well-being. And I love how, the me time and being the CEO of your life and leaning into joy. Like, I love everything that you stand for because it's the same kind of mindset for me as well. And what I'm working with on my clients. Yeah, I'm ICF accredited coach. I have a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in industrial organizational psychology, which is basically business psychology. And I worked as an HR business partner in corporate for 20 years for a global pharmaceutical company. And I was coaching in the workplace, outside of the workplace, facilitating training and workshops. And my coaching focuses on having difficult conversations, team accountability, performance management, employee relations, talent and leadership development, and giving and receiving feedback, building trust and rapport with your team, with your clients, team engagement, motivation, retention. Decision fatigue is a big thing that comes up lately, procrastination, stress, overwhelm, building confidence, building leadership confidence, and also imposter syndrome is a big thing. So, and I've been seeing that many of my clients, if not all, can identify themselves as a recovering perfectionist. So it's kind of interesting that I've seen that trend for whatnot. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and
Is
yeah,
that everything you write about in your Substack? All those topics, little by little, or are you more
yeah,
focused on specific things? I'm just curious.
yeah. So I'm doing my best to focus on like the recovering perfectionist aspects and how it could tie into different areas of your life, right? How you show up. So, it I do touch on sometimes my own, previous work stories and how, I had a boss who thought I should have my phone by my bed, just in case a call and late at night comes, and I told her straight out. I was later in my career and I said, I'm not doing that. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I didn't even care, what the implications were of me saying that. I was just like, I'm not doing that. I actually wrote a blog about that piece, but I think that story's in the sacrificing. Are you making too many sacrifices or not enough sacrifices? So I think it's in that one. But yeah, so I'm doing my best to stay focused on the recovering perfectionist piece and how that is in your life and how to work through that. How do we embrace it and know that it's a superpower? It could be a struggle, but it can also be a superpower if you know how to lean into it, right? And work for you.
I have an advantage that I've seen from recovering perfectionists because when we were planning this live, you were very organized. We're like, we need to have a structure. And I'm like, structure. So we have structure that we can follow today because we've been very organized. So recovering perfectionists are actually super good at being organized. And
Bullet
that's
points.
great.
Yeah.
I'm all about headings and making sure everything is organized and the topic is structured and all that stuff. And once a lawyer, you're always a lawyer, I guess. Unfortunately, maybe I don't know. No, I'm a fun lawyer. It's good. It's fine. So I'm looking at the list that we created together.
Yeah.
Sarina, thank you so much for the introduction, first of all, and thank you for everyone subscribe to Recovering Perfectionist. It's a superpower if you know how to frame it, and Sarina helps you with that and all of the different other psychological challenges you might be facing around organizational psychology and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're talking a little bit about something that seems off topic, but not really, which is
Mm-hmm.
joy. And I would call joy, because we're moving into defining joy. I would
Yes.
call joy food for the soul. If
Mm,
we have food for the body, drinks, everything that we put in our body to stay healthy and strong and have energy to move, joy is what you put in your soul in order to move on, to go over difficult challenges, to dream and move into action. If you don't have joy, it's very difficult to find the energy to move. So I became obsessed with the huge realization I had about myself that we're so stingy with creating joy for ourselves. So that's what me and Serena decided to talk about today.
mhm.
How to prioritize joy instead of being like, I'm only gonna do it if I have $1 million in the bank or anything like that. But I would love to ask you, Serena, what is your definition of joy? And it's not no pressure. It's more like kind of just to play with the concept and make it more tangible, so then people know what we're talking about moving on.
Yeah, yeah. So joy, I feel like joy or joyful moments are more like that feeling when you're in the flow, right? Time expands and you feel like this deeper connection to yourself, to other people. I feel lit up by life. I feel elevated. It's also very healing and like revitalizing, recalibrating, in terms of, channeling the stress and negativity that you might get hit with day in, day out, right? it calms my nervous system, right? It switches me out of that stress response type of feeling, and I just feel alive. I feel so energized by life, and it doesn't even matter how small or big those joyful moments are. Like literally, one of the practices that I've been doing, you know, and a lot, and I was doubling down on it, was these dance like liberation moments in my kitchen, right? So I was on the North Fork TV Festival. I'm still on it. The advisory board co-chair. So I was leading the advisory board. And so there was a lot, it was intense and there was a lot that needed to be accomplished. It felt like it went from feeling like a marathon each week to feeling like a marathon of actions every day. And so I had to get up and take breaks and like I have the music on, but I would just go and dance and move the energy through me. And through that, opportunities would show up, right? And just like great news would show up. And so I was like, oh, this is so good. And so, just doubling down on it. Like those are small ways to do that. I say joy is an activator. It's magnetic, and I do feel like it's a anchor. And I myself have gotten away from it at times and thought, oh, the things that bring me joy, sometimes I'm delaying or postponing, but really making joy the priority allows for everything else to come into your life. It makes things easier. It flows easier in your life. So really anchoring into that allows us to stay present and connected to ourselves and everybody else. So yeah, that's my take on joy and joyful moments. Yeah. So,
I wanted to say hi to everyone watching us. We have 7 people with us, which is a big number for me from my lives. Hi, Jill. Jill is one of my dear subscribers. We've had a chat in the previously. If you guys have questions, put it in the chat, and I will try to be good and introduce it in the conversation. So it's more of a conversation where you guys are also involved. Um, and I think we've defined joy quite well. Hi, Jill. Quite well. And I just want to kind of wrap it up with what I say about joy, because I've been writing for a month nonstop about joy now, which is, speaking about dance, joy is that feeling of your soul dancing inside. So it's not addiction to dopamine or eating bad stuff, because
mm,
that those things that you do that are kind of um, more about pleasure, they make you feel kind of bad quite soon afterwards.
yeah.
Joy, sure, joy is absolute good. It has nothing bad in it. So we're
Hmm.
not about binge eating or just going bananas, but enjoy the piece of cake if you want cake. Don't wait for a special occasion if that's kind of that little something that's going to give you that energy to do something difficult, or you know reward yourself for not having procrastinated, or whatever you want to do. But that's what we're talking about today, joy. And how can we prioritize joy? And first, I want to talk about the problem.
Hmm.
And the problem that I've noticed, and my aha moment, or what the fuck am I doing moment, was that I realized that I'm very stingy with joy, or I used to be very stingy with joy. That joy, or giving myself a reward, joy was a reward for doing.
Hmm.
I could book a vacation after I finished a bunch of stuff for my work that didn't even super depend on just me and what I did.
Hmm.
I would go on that my dream vacation only if I got promotion.
Hmm.
That is insane. Why would I put these goals that don't depend 100% on me to limit or maybe take away something that would fill me up from inside? So I've made an experiment of my life since last December,
Hmm.
and I decided that's it. I'm gonna just follow my joy, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna add joy in every single day. And we don't need to earn joy. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do it because it feels good, because I love myself, because I deserve it, because I don't need to prove to anyone that I need to earn joy. So I would, I don't know, wear red lipstick around the house just because it makes me feel good. I would, I don't know, really silly things like get a new workout outfit for my volleyball uh, practices. So I feel like kind of cool and not the frumpy old stuff. And very small things that can, just turn your day around. A little dance party with my daughter. I'm
Mhm.
invincible afterwards. And just to wrap up with what you just said, Sarina, about kind of joy being attracting more into your life, it's true. I mean, you guys can try it. Start today. Start right now.
Yes.
Uh, the biggest, I don't know, let's say, event or thing that happened to me on Substack was that a much bigger creator than I am, Christina God from the Writers Club,
Mm.
contacted me to go on a live. That week, I was just playing volleyball all I could. I couldn't care less about Substack. Okay,
Mhm.
trying to keep up, but I was just doing my own thing, having the best time. And in those weeks or days of joy, I was getting so many interesting people reaching out to me, wanting to
Yes. That's
things that
exactly when it happens. It's so
happen when you prioritize joy. That people don't get attracted to grumpy people, to upset people. No one wants more of that. We have it enough in our own lives. But when you focus on joy, that lights you up from inside and that attracts people to you. It's that easy. And I think we all know it deep down inside, but somehow we got trained to push it, to postpone it. So that's a problem that we're
yeah.
facing, Serena,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's a big problem. I definitely have that on my list, and I've definitely been there and not too long ago, and it still happens from time to time. So it's catching ourselves when we're in that, oh, denying it, delaying it, almost missing out on opportunities, like because we just are not allowing ourselves to lean into joy. We're so caught up in the doing, right? Instead of the being. And joy is a being, right? It's who you show up as a presence and that experience in just life, right? So yeah, so that's definitely one of them. And then, of course, being a perfectionist, like the all or nothing, right? Why bother if I can't be the best of the best, right? Like that, this thinking, this mindset will stop you from moving forward altogether. So if there's like, say, a creative project, then or any kind of project, whether it's writing, creative project, any kind of risk you're looking to take in your life, um, something that you just want to accomplish that you just keep thinking like, well, why now? It's too late, or I don't know how I'm going to start. And you know what? It all starts somewhere, right? Like anybody who is at the top of their game didn't start at the top of their game. They weren't born necessarily at the top of their game. There was practice. There was practice along the way for whatever they're focusing on. If they're an athlete, they're a creator of some type, or an expert in their field or whatever it may be. So it starts somewhere, and I fell into that trap. I'll share, like, even starting my Substack, I was thinking about examples of where I was denying myself joy, and writing is one of those things that brings me joy and getting caught up in the moment. And I love creating and building and strategizing. And there's a lot of things that bring me joy, but in terms of like the writing piece, like I just get kind of lost in the process. And I had decided, and I still have it up there because as a recovering perfectionist, I wanted to like show people that, hey, I'm there, and it's not so long ago, and I still struggle with this from time to time. So December, if you look back and say coming soon on my Substack, it says December 2023, because that's when I decided I was going to start my Substack. Well, guess what? nothing happened for over a year, right? Like it wasn't until February of 2024 that I got serious and started to give that a priority, right? And focus on that. And then found Anna, Kaylin, who that's how I met Noemi in that community and started taking her workshops. And I became a paid subscriber for her and paid workshops from her and learning behind the scenes and then starting, then researching and building and creative. Like that whole process was joyful before I even launched, right? It wasn't about like, I'm going to launch and I'm going to have thousands of subscribers, it wasn't about the number. It was about getting started and not being so perfect, but definitely setting up some things behind the scene that allow me to feel that it was good enough that I could be proud of what I'm putting out there. So there's a difference between being proud and being perfect, right? So you don't have to be perfect. There really isn't such a thing as perfect. So if we can get to a place where we feel like good about it, we feel proud about it, that's a good indicator that you can move forward, right? So if you're feeling that, like tune into that.
Mm.
So, yeah, so it did take me some time and finally I launched it on May 5th. I just went with May 5th. And yeah, and I plan to be more interactive and more engaged in the community. I did what I could initially, which is I've been consistent with putting out posts once a week, in Substack to the email list and going from there and building from there. So I couldn't necessarily commit to everything because of my capacity. So that's another thing. Like sometimes you got to do things in stages and you can't commit to everything that the big plan that you want to do. But I didn't wait to commit, like to start for the big plan. So now that I have a little bit more capacity because the festival was last week, now I can be more engaged and come up with, a plan for that of like when I'm going to be in there, how often I'll, post notes besides post, right? Like be more engaged. So that's like the phase two of my Substack and like just an example of how I was delaying it, that it took me over a year to get into this creative project. And that's just one example of, delaying or, just thinking like I'm not ready yet kind of, situation. Yeah.
Well, my biggest excuse that I've used, that I've seen other people use, is I have no time for this.
Mhm.
And of course, for my publication me time, that's quite a topical discussion because we do have time. And what else should we spend our time on than joy? I mean, are we here on this planet to just be productive? Is that enough?
Mhm.
I don't think so. I think we're all built and created on this earth to create joy for ourselves and others. And that's the point. The job we have, the people we help, the family that we're surrounded and friends that we're surrounded with, the communities that we create, they're all about sharing and joy and creating something special and meaningful. And if
Yeah.
it's that our soul dies a little bit inside of us and we become
Yeah.
angry later, and I've been there. I've been a bitch in my previous role before burning out totally.
Mm.
Such a bitch. But I felt trapped. I felt like I was in
Mm.
my own making, in a golden age of a good salary and a good career, and everything externally looked amazing, but I felt terrible. I would
Mm.
um give myself the pleasure of some food, good nourishing food, anything. I was just obsessed with being super productive, doing everything, being perfect.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't have time for joy. Joy was for other people. Until
Mhm.
I burned out. I didn't take my vacations.
Mm.
I didn't go to the gym. I didn't eat food that required a bit more preparation or stuff like that, and it was terrible. And when I flipped that switch,
Yeah.
uh, flipped that switch, and I made joy a priority, it was like magic, like
Mhm.
everything stuck. And I beat myself lovingly every day thinking, why didn't I inject joy into my life earlier? Why
Mhm.
this a hidden secret that nobody is talking about? I found
Mhm.
that I recommend to everyone, which is called The Book of Joy. It is a book written. It's written by another person, but it's basically conversations about joy between Dalai Lama and Reverend Desmond Tutu
Mm.
of South Africa,
Mm.
and sprinkled with neuroscience, with a lot
Mm.
of different, you know, empirical and practical ways to look at joy. Everything points to joy. It's
Yes.
Noemi that ran a one-person experiment from last December. It's just a universal truth, and the more you dig into it, and maybe this is your sign, you guys watching, whoever will see the recording, maybe
Mhm.
this is your side to dig into joy, make your own research, run your own joy experiment.
Yes.
See the magic that happens. I don't think anyone will think it it's impossible for it to go wrong unless you kind of go into opulence and what actually joy isn't. If you like spend all your money because now you want to just go on vacations because you're following my joy. You know, we need to be practical. We need to live in this life still, but it's about not finding the times where we're denying ourselves something that shouldn't be linked to earning it, to being perfect, to making it at the right time, or
Mhm.
prioritizing work over joy. What I used to do is I would drop everything to reply to work, even at night sometimes,
Mm.
for a while until it got old, until my company kind of got used to me doing that. And I'm like, wait, 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 wait.
Mm.
I was helping you on certain occasions, and now you're kind of thinking this is the normal thing I do, and that's not the case. So I started booking joy into my calendar. I didn't know it was booking joy at that point. I'm just looking back and figuring that kind of how.
Yeah. No, it's essential. It's essential to make it put it in your calendar. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So, yeah.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about that because Sarina has a good practice about it. But one of the things that came up yesterday, I was on Substack procrastinating, and it was Justin Welsh talking to Hamish, I don't know his last name, the founder of Substack.
Mm.
And one of the questions, I don't know what the question was, but Justin was the way I build my day now because I want to live a fulfilling life is that I put in my day the things that my soul needs, and then I add the things that I need to do. And
Mhm.
huge flex that maybe not everyone can afford. Maybe not everyone has so much flexibility in their day to day, but I think everyone can afford adding little parts of
Yes. Yes. No,
if
it's
you
so true. So true. And I love that you gave that book resource, and I'm gonna check that out. And you might have mentioned it before, but I forgot to check it out. But I have another book resource that I was gonna give as part of how to bring more joy or how to make it a priority. One of my mentors, Samantha Bennett, she has a book called The 15-Minute Method. And I've learned about it before she actually had the book, and because she's one of my mentors, one of my writing business mentors, and I was sharing this approach, this strategy with my clients before the book was out. And basically, it's this concept of whatever you want to do, create. Maybe it's organizing or decluttering. Like maybe that brings you joy. Maybe it's, baking or, there's so many different ways to lean into joy. Maybe it's I start my morning with my matcha latte and I take a gratitude moment, a joyful moment before I get into my meditation of just giving thanks for it. So there's only small little micro ways of bringing in joy or joyful moments into your life. It's not always the vacation. There are ways to bring it into your daily life. And so it's tuning into that. And so we're going to talk about like practical ways, but I wanted to give that book. Her concept is like find 15 minutes. You might even make it more, but like kind of start your day with it, right? Like Do not start your day with emails. Like, I don't check emails for at least an hour. Usually I try and go longer, like a couple hours, until like from when I wake to when I check emails, because I don't want my day to be focused on responding to people. I want to start focusing on myself, and I love slow living, spaciousness, and I love and I was doing this even when I was in corporate. I was not the type of person. My sister is the kind of person who gets up like 15 or 30 minutes before she has to leave for work. That is not me. That is too frantic for me. I like to have 2 hours in the morning. And even if I'm not going anywhere, even though I'm working remote, because I love my slower morning, my practices that I have, my meditation. I love to sit on my bench and then visualize or dance or music, and just like things come to me then, like my intuition. I'm locked into my intuition, and so I love to honor that sacred time, that's very joyful for me. So that is a daily practice that I start with. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have 2 hours, you don't need 2 hours. You can do 15 minutes, you could do 5 minutes. If all you can start with is 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes and expand, and just do that as an experiment. Like Naomi was saying, try it for a week, try it for 2 weeks, then, go from there, do it for like longer, right? So it will become second nature. So yeah, in terms of like practical ways, that was one of the resources I was going to give you. But you could create a list, and you could call it like a joyful like joy list, joyful experience list, after work reset list. Actually, my client came up with that name because we were helping her come up with a way to like move out of like stress and overwhelm, and switch out of work mode into relaxation mode. And so she came up with this list for herself. So I have a practice that I learned from one of my other mentors, and it's called Start, Stop, Change, right? And you can do 3 columns, right, for each category: start, stop, and change. List out, and you'll just list it out, and you'll then focus on one from each column, say for the next 30 days. You could start with 2 weeks again at first, if as a trial run, if 30 days is too much to commit to. So start can also be continue. Maybe it's something you've been doing and you want to continue and you want to be consistent. So that can also fall in the start column. Then stop. What would this be? What has been a distraction, right? Where are you, giving away your time? Where can you delegate or ask for help, whether it's at work or family or friends? Where are you spending? Maybe you're spending too much time on social. How much time are you spending on worrying about things that never happen, and or debating on decisions rather than taking action, right? So where can you basically, you're identifying where can you free up space in your life so you can start or you can continue to be consistent with the things that are joyful for you, right? And change is the last column, and that is, maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's an approach or behavior or belief, or that you need to reframe, that you would like to reframe because you want to shift out of the ones that are kind of making you like the victim mindset, and shift more into the empowering statements, which I catch this with my clients, and I've been there before. And one of my coaches caught me. I remember saying in a group coaching call, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. And I said it a few times, and my coach calls me out for it. And she said, trying is not a commitment, right? And I never forgot that. And so that stayed with me. And so now I say things, and I teach my clients as well. Let's reframe that. I'm committed. I'm making progress. I'm working on, right? Very different type of energy. You're in control. You are actually moving forward. You're not standing still. You're not stuck. Any progress is still progress. So let's keep that in mind. So again, it's start, stop, change, 3 columns. And then you could create your joyful experience list based on that. right? And start small. You're not trying to implement 5 things at the same time. It's just really one from each column, right? So, yeah, so I wanted to share that practice, kind of tied into that joyful experience list. I think that can be very practical for people as a place to start. And yeah, so I just want to pause there.
That's a perfect place to pause because I have a joy list and I encourage my coachees to have a joy list. And the
Mhm.
reason for the joy list is easy. Sometimes when you're overwhelmed and stressed and in a bad mood, you cannot think of joy. You're
Yeah.
just clouded. So having something physical where I also recommend kind of how many make like short list some things that are very short and easy to do joy.
Mhm.
Bigger ones that require more time, like a half a day off or something like that,
Yeah.
like the spa might not be super easy to do on a crazy busy day, but think of your cup of matcha or whatever that takes 5 minutes and create that list with also the time that you could do it for, just to give you kind of these ideas that you can go into when you're not feeling as good. There's another thing you can do. This is from a neuroscientist that wrote a book about, I think it's happiness in general, uh, and and moving from anhedonia, which is not feeling anything, feeling totally blasé about everything,
Mhm.
having living, feeling vibrant, feeling energized from within, joy.
Mm.
And she
Mhm.
has 5 V's. The 5 V's go towards what we need in our life in order to thrive.
Mm.
And it's basically a checklist that you need to go through to kind of see if you're giving yourself all of the things that need to happen.
Mm.
And I would love to tell you what the 5 V's are, but I forgot now that it's live. Document, and I promise I will DM each and everyone that was on this live, and I will share the 5 V's. But one of the V's was about social connection. And I
Mm.
speak about that because joy is not lonely. Joy is not something that happens inside of us. It's something that's a shared energy, and it's contagious. And it's contagious to other people. The stress and anger and fear,
Yes, yes.
when you come into a room with good energy, people want your energy. So joy is stronger than the other emotions.
It is. It's high on the level of emotions. It's one of the top level emotions. I think it's very close to love on that scale. So there is a scale out there, and I've seen it, and joy is all the way up there. So yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Maybe you could put it in the comments. I don't know what happens after the live, or when you reshare it, you can probably put it in the comments for
But
anybody else.
what I do
Yeah.
now that we're wrapping up
Yes.
is that when I publish it, the recording, there's always a place where you can describe things, um, like a description to the video. So I'll put the 5 V's in there so everyone has access to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I would love to see that myself. Sure. Yeah.
And also the resource where it comes from. I have a guide on joy, and it's from that guide that I have it, but
Mm.
I remember all of the V's, and then I feel embarrassed, so I don't want to start now.
No, that's okay. No, you know what? You're starting the conversation, and yeah, I love it. And you're going to follow up, and you're going to share, and we've got another way to lean into joy and to get creative and think outside of it's just a vacation. It's just in the future. No, joy is an everyday experience. So we want to lean into that. So, and that was the whole intention of this, is how can we lean into that? How can we reconnect to that? How can we prioritize joy, and really, something that maybe we lost sight of, that we're just not making it a priority, right? We're delaying it, we're denying it, we're putting other people first, other
Especially for women,
priorities first,
we're
so
we're
yeah.
so conditioned to please other people, which means
Yes.
we might spark joy for everyone around us except ourselves. So being a little bit selfish, not a lot, not forgetting about our loved ones, family, dogs, whatever, but, also putting ourselves first. You put the oxygen mask first on yourself in order to help others around you. And I feel like that could be a nice way to wrap it up. I know people in the US are starting to get dinner ready and getting the kids, spending time with your kids, and we don't want to take too much of your time. We agreed
Yes.
half an hour, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for anyone who's watching it now or afterwards, the replay, I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway is from today. So just feel free to put it in the chat or put it in the comments afterwards. And I would like to know, or you consider, you don't have to share this part with us, but when are you going to start with one of these practices that we shared, whether it's the book or something else, the start, stop, change practice, maybe it's a 15-minute method. When are you going to start with it to infuse more joy into your everyday life? How are you going to prioritize it, right? Like, when will it happen? Are you going to habit stack it, right? To something that you're already doing in the morning. You have your cup of coffee or tea and then you do something joyful with that or right after that, right? And so yeah, so again, initially you might have to plan it, or sometimes we always have to plan certain things or they're not going to happen, but some things are just going to come more natural to you and fall into your life. But yeah, I think this is a great way to end. Yeah, I love that we had this conversation, Naomi. It's been a joyful experience connecting with you before and here today and sharing, our thoughts about, being more joyful and just prioritizing it. And yeah. So, and thank you for, mentioning recovering perfectionist. And yeah, I'd love to have you. If you'd like to join and paid subscribers, I'm doing a group quarterly Q&A coaching type of session. So yeah, if you want more of that support like with a group, then that's an option that you get when you upgrade to paid. And I'm looking to do my first one in July. So if you sign up, you'll be able to attend that, and you can, just DM me. I would love to hear from you. DM me, let me know that you did sign up. Let me know maybe what would work for you, what day or time, so I can take that into consideration. Yeah, so that's all. Yeah, that I'd like to share. What about you, Naomi? Closing comments?
I want to challenge everyone watching this now, later, and until eternity to follow your joy. It doesn't cost anything, or it doesn't have to cost anything, and it has no side effects. It will change your life,
Yes.
and I think there's nothing else to add. Follow your joy. There's no reason to postpone it. There's no reason to not feel joy every single day of your life, even during periods of hardship, maybe even more
Uh,
so in
yes.
hardship, because joy is what gives you the internal energy to move forward when life seems to be hitting you from left and from right. So, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being part of the Me Time community. I would love to see you in a future live. DM me, reach out to me. There's a paid thing for me, but I'm not going to talk about that when we're talking about joy. I'm going to leave it at that. I'll give you some me time back so you can be with your families and start practicing joy today. Do something small for you
Mm-hmm.
and let us know in the comments how it went and if you feel any change in your life from it.
All
Thank
right. Yeah.
everyone.
Take
I'm gonna
care.
try to figure out how to end this. I always forget. My third live. One day, I think it's just end. Thank you, Sarina, for joining me today.
Yes. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you again.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.